had an operation. She had 8 fractures of the spine, 3 in the neck and 5 in the lumbar region. She's now getting better 8 months later. But when she was going to be released from Walsgrave, I was just told she was going to be released, and that was it. And I said, well, what about a care plan? No care plan. You live in Leicestershire. Go and ask them. I went to ask Market Harborough. Oh, we haven't got anybody. So I said, well, what do? I can't look after my wife. I'm not a nurse. She's in desperate need. She needs bathing. She needs looking after properly, professionally, every single day. You'll have to get private carers in. And the private carers that did eventually come were between 18 and 22 years old. Kids out of school. They'd never worked professionally anywhere, let alone in the medical industry. But we had to suffer that. I did eventually get, through the Wycliffe practice, 2 weeks of care from Market Harborough, but that was all they would give us. After that, we were on our own. And until last month, she was still receiving care. My biggest problem is this. This is just one example of not having a cottage hospital that could look after, or a service that could look after people in our Lutterworth area. What I really would like to see is some more meat on the bone. Has anybody done a feasibility study of what it costs to run the cottage?
We have got figures that are coming up.
All the figures?
They're coming up later.
So this is for staffing as well as for building, upkeep and everything else. Good. And what is the solution if we were to try and go it alone, if possible? Is there a facility available to allow us to do that?
Well, I think with the pending Lutterworth East proposal, if that goes ahead, we all know that this community is going to double in size. We've also got Broughton Astley that over the last year and I think the following year to come is going to have over 581 houses built. The only way I think we can look at this is to possibly approach Harbour District Council and the developers to see if we could get any funding from them as a sweetener. I feel that probably wouldn't happen. It's my understanding at the moment, although I'm not very well involved in the Lutterworth East proposal, that Lutterworth is wanting to have the north-south bypass and sweeteners such as a new medical centre and a or more schools that would be required have been withdrawn. So that is my understanding so far. Okay? Shall can I just carry on, and could we come back to questions and answers perhaps towards the end of the meeting? Is that all right? Yeah. Yeah? So what does the STP mean for Lutterworth and surrounding villages? I think we've already established that the Fielding Palmer Hospital has been targeted purely on a cost efficiency issue. It would appear that the figures presented by the clinical commissioning group regarding the cottage hospital stack up to show that the Fielding Palmer Cottage Hospital is no longer viable. Hence their proposal to close it. Well, let's take a closer look at the the CCG's figures, shall we? Under the Freedom of Information Act, we have obtained the following information. Okay, stop me if you don't understand what I'm talking about. So, the first question that we asked them was, if the sustainability and transformation plan was implemented and the cottage hospital was to close, patients would be discharged from acute hospitals, the Leicester hospitals, predominantly, back into the community. Could you please state how much money has been ring-fenced for this facility? So that was the question we asked, okay? The CCG's answer to that question was, there is no specific ring-fencing of funding for the provision of care. Okay. A business case will be developed in consultation with stakeholders at a later date. The second question that was asked was, how much does the Fielding Palmer Cottage Hospital cost per annum? The answer to that was 1.1 million. Okay? The third question that we asked, what criteria was used to reduce the number of beds in the cottage hospital? They have been reduced from 13 to 10. The answer returned by the CCG was, there was no criteria used, which is totally contrary to what Carmel O'Brien, she is the Chief Nurse and Quality Officer for the CCG, was saying at the meeting at the Masonic Hall in January. She had actually said that the beds were being closed due to infection control. Okay? But when they were actually asked, their answer was no criteria was used. Now, this is quite an important part as well. Fourth question we asked was, the CCG said that they hope to realise the sum of £3 million from the sale of the cottage hospital. How was that figure ascertained? Their answer to that question was, we have no knowledge of ever stating that figure. Do you see we're building a bit of a picture here? So, this response was challenged, and we opened a case via the Information Commissioner. Okay? And what I put to them was, in response, you, the CCG, said you have no knowledge of the amount of £3 million ever being stated by yourselves. In fact, Dr. Richard Paling from the Clinical Commissioning Group actually said this was the amount that would be realised at Westminster with myself, Mary Guppy and our MP, Alberta Costa. So, their response to that challenge was, which they had originally denied, in order to present a financial for the draft STP, it appears an estimated sale value for the land and buildings was used. This really isn't building up, for me, a viable argument. Also, through the Freedom of Information Act, we have obtained knowledge that the CCG met with the Lutterworth League of Friends and the Lutterworth Town Council on the 15th of December 2016, I beg your pardon. It was put to the stakeholders at this point that if Fielding Palmer was to close, there would possibly be an option to increase community services based at Lutterworth, and that £1.4 million would be made available for this to happen. So, I'm sure you will all agree that the current community services are quite extensive, but they could be improved, but they save us time and inconvenience of having to travel to Leicester, Hinckley or Market Harborough. Whilst I just mentioned Market Harborough, I just wanted to say, you're probably all aware of their new building that just cost £7.8 million. Are you aware that there are no beds in that building? It is used for community services downstairs and upstairs it is admin. There are no more beds provided in that new building. So I just wanted to make that point. In terms of community services, it would seem that Market Harborough pretty much offer the same as Lutterworth, and Simon will go through the services offered by Lutterworth later on. They do have a minor injuries facility and an X-ray facility. Now, going back to that figure of 1.4 million, it is indeed a very attractive amount of money, isn't it? But, and there is a huge but here, a very huge but, and this is critical. When the CCG met with Mary and myself and Alberta Costa down at Westminster, Alberta Costa questioned the CCG. 3 times he asked this question. If the STP is implemented and the Field in Palmer Cottage Hospital closes, will you guarantee that that sum of money, that £1.4 million, will go to Lutterworth for that facility, whether it be to improve community services, to build a new outpatient unit, rehab centre? He asked them 3 times. They did start to get a little bit hot under the collar, didn't they, Mary?
They did, yes.
And their final answer was, and this is so important, their answer was no. Okay? So a carrot is actually, in essence, being dangled. We don't know whether it will come to fruition or not. Okay, so we need to be very careful here, and the CCG's consultation needs to be scrutinised, because I personally fear that we could end up with nothing. No hospital and no community services. Okay, and just going back to the point of if their estate is worth, if the estate of the cottage hospital is worth £3 million, and even if they reserve that £1.4 million for Lutterworth and surrounding villages, that leaves £1.6 million. Okay, you don't need me to explain the maths there. That money will go back to central government. Okay? And I think that's me finished, actually, looking at my notes.
Did you say they were going to build an extra... If
Well,
they're going to build extra bit, what's the point of not...
I know. Were you at the meeting in January when Dr. Johnson actually tried to address that? Where actually would this building be built, sited? That, he couldn't really give an answer. It was very vague, somewhere around. You know, so this is, everything that they are proposing is very vague. And that's why you need to take this information away with you and be there at the consultation stage to ask these questions, because they're not going to engage with any of us. You know, they probably just see us as a bit of a pain in their backside, basically. So without further ado, I have seen some hands up. If we have got a fair bit more to get through, so I would like to pass you on to Linda Whitten. And Linda is from a business background. She wants the NHS to still be around when she needs it.